everyone, how are you all? Thank you so much for joining us today for another One More Chapter book club. I'm so excited about our book club today as I'm going to be joined by Noelle Holten, author of the DC Maggie Jameson series. We'll particularly be discussing her latest book in the series, Dead Wrong, which sees Maggie go head-to-head with Bill Raven, the notorious serial killer she had previously put behind bars before the series even starts. But yet, one of the women has been found dead, and forensics reveal that she was only killed 2 days ago. So does that mean Bill Raven is innocent, or how did he do it? Eek. It's a big case to solve, and Maggie is running out of time. So it's going to be a brilliant discussion, as there were just so many twists and turns in this book, and OMG, the ending, which, so we're going to try and keep it fairly spoiler-free for everyone out there who hasn't quite read it, but I'm sure that those of you who have will be very excited to hear about what Noelle has next in store. But I will be joined by fellow member of the One More Chapter team, Bethan Morgan, who has been working with Noelle on her series to chat to. So please leave us lots and lots of comments and questions, and tag any friends or family that you think would like to get involved, as I know it's going to be a brilliant discussion. But now, please help me in welcoming Noelle and Bethan. I will just bring them in. 1 second. Cool. Hi, folks. Hello, you're live. How are you going?
Good.
Good. So can you tell us where you're both coming live from? Let's start off with that.
I'm live from my dining room / work area in North Hampshire.
And I'm coming to you live from the floor of my sister's bedroom in Scotland.
Awesome.
Why the floor?
On the floor because, as Mel will be very familiar with, I tend to get interrupted on calls by my two very, very loud dogs. We have Prospero the Husky, Padme the Beagle. So I thought I would just remove myself from that environment and head upstairs to in front of my sister's bookcase.
Awesome.
Would have been fun though if they'd interrupted, but
I knew it would happen, so didn't want to risk it.
Lots of fun. Cool. So we've got lots of people saying hello at the moment. Hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Please ask us questions as we go through. So I'm so excited to talk to Noelle today. The DC Maggie Jameson series are just brilliant, and I'm so excited for the next one as well. But now we're here to talk about primarily the second one. But Noelle, my first question I'm going to bring up on the screen, which I like to do if anyone's seen this before, which is, what was your inspiration for the series? How did you come up with it?
Right. Well, the series itself, I loved Mel Sherratt's Estate series. I don't know if you've read that. I love the idea of the different agencies kind of coming together and working together. And I love Mel's book. So I wanted something similar to that. And I thought, as I'd worked in probation, I worked with a large number of agencies. And we were heavily involved in police cases. For instance, if one of our clients or offenders got involved in a murder, they would contact us and ask us for information. So I thought, well, why don't I write basically what I know in terms of work that I do, and develop this series around how not only the police solve crimes, but how the other agencies contribute to solving those crimes. So hence Maggie Jameson was born.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a really interesting angle as well. You often don't see how those sorts of other agencies interact with solving crimes. Yeah. Well, I don't recall myself, which is really interesting. We see that more in the first book, don't we?
And the second one, the second one's very much heavily police procedurally led. Because I remember when I first pitched to Killer Reads at the time, now One More Chapter. The book was pretty much Lucy's story, Dead Inside, and Maggie was kind of in it, and he was like, can we bring Maggie a bit more to the forefront, get more police side into it? So this second book, Dead Wrong, that's definitely Maggie's kind of story, and as the series progresses, I kind of put one of the agencies more at the forefront, but having Maggie involved, obviously, in all of the cases. And that's what I want to get, a kind of ensemble series throughout.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the aspects I love most about the series, because I think it is such a fresh and unique kind of feature of it, especially because I think Maggie, after the case in the first book, is kind of very keen to incorporate that back into the main crime team, so kind of that multi-agency team makeup.
That's what I was hoping you would do.
Exactly, but like taking those learnings too. But so you then, after you were a probation officer, then you've come to work full time in publishing, right? That was your yeah. Yeah. So how did that kind of happen as well? That's really interesting to me.
Well, Kim Nash, who's here today. Hi, Kim. I call her my fairy godmother because I met Kim through my blog. I was doing blog tours for bookish, so reading and reviewing their books on my blog. And I was kind of getting really unhappy in probation. It was really stressful. I was managing 2 teams of officers across 2 different areas. And it just became really, I don't know, I felt, it was probably the first time in my life I felt in 2017, I would wake up and think, I don't want to go into work today. And I was chatting with Kim, and at Harrogate of that year, of 2016, I think it was, at Harrogate, Kim had said to me, oh, would you be interested in doing some freelance work for bookish? So I thought, oh God, yeah, I'd love to do that. So in the evenings, I would go home and plan blog tours and chat with authors who I was like, gobsmacked to be working with, because I loved their books. So it was like dream stuff. And then in 2017, I was at Mike Craven, M.W. Craven's, one of his launches in Carlisle. And I got a phone call from Kim. I'd been interviewed by Oliver Rhodes and Kim at bookish. And she called me and just said, would like to offer you a full-time post. And I didn't even listen to how much I'd be making or anything. I just screamed down the phone, yes, I'll take it. And that was it. I handed in my notice. And my officers, it made me laugh, because my officers said that for the month of June, it was probably the happiest they'd ever seen me, because I was leaving.
Well, then it was the right step then. But then I guess your probation experience, obviously so valuable for your writing now, which we've kind of touched on a little bit, but that kind of leads me to my second question, which is a bit more in depth about how your work as a probation officer really has influenced your books.
Yeah, definitely has influence, because everything I do, I'm kind of thinking, and let me just say, I'm a big geek, so I still read like the probation circulars that come out and what's happening in terms of criminal justice. I love reading all that kind of stuff. So in terms of working in probation, I kind of would think about, especially when I'm writing the books, the different people I've met along the way, the different, not only offenders and prisoners and stuff like that, but the colleagues I've worked with, because, and I don't work for them anymore, so I don't care what I say. There were some officers, not on my teams were great, let me just say, but there were some officers I came across in all my years in probation, that I just thought, how are these people, why aren't they on probation? They were just, some of them were just horrendous. Yeah, and I'll just give an example without giving names. When I was working in London, there was, and I was training at the time, there was a big fight broke out in the reception area of the office that I was working in. And, the alarm bells were going off. And when we all went out there, it was a probation officer with another probation officer beating the crap out of each other in front of offenders. So I was like, oh my God, what have I got myself into?
Not a great example.
But all these things are great sources of, knowledge to use in terms of creating characters and thinking of different plot lines and getting the different agents, because everything does not run smoothly. That's the thing with agencies. And even working together, like there's always conflict between police and probation, or social services and probation. So I like the fact that I can use that in the stories and get that across.
Definitely, which I think, yeah, definitely comes across. That's kind of one of my questions, which maybe I'll jump ahead to, is which I'll bring up on the screen again. Which the first part though is that obviously the fans love the dynamic between Maggie and the rest of her team, both within, as we've talked about, the multi-agency domestic abuse and homicide unit in Dead Inside, and also in the main crime department in Dead Wrong. And my question here was kind of, how do you go about planning these characters and weaving their roles throughout each plot? And I guess from what you were saying then, is are a lot of them based on some people that or previous experiences that you've had and adapted?
Yeah, it's really weird because a lot of the characters, and even like Maggie herself, I'm still learning a lot about her. I'm not big at planning, so I kind of just write things. I'm a very chaotic writer. Nothing's chronological, which is a bit of a nightmare when it comes to having to put the book together. But as I'm going along, things will come to me. And like you said, I'll think of other people I've met along the way, and their influence on me might come across in some of the characters. There's no character that is strictly one person I know. So, it might be a little bit of one person's trait mixed in with another. And same with the bad guys. There's like Bill Raven himself. I thought back to a really gruesome case that when I first started in probation, that kind of ran along those lines, but I mean, I made it veer off differently, so it's not that case. But the Bill Raven himself was a group of offenders that I'd come across, really cold, like when I'd go and visit them in prison, you could just see they did not care about anything they did. And I wanted that kind of feeling across and they're also cocky as well. So, they think they're winning the game, and you kind of, as a probation officer yourself, and I'm sure the police and other agencies feel this way, you are in this kind of game with them where you want to make them feel like they can trust you, but they know you're going to say something to someone else because you have to. So it's a weird dynamic, but yeah, it was interesting pulling a few people together to create that character.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Beth and I were talking about this earlier as well, just especially the dynamic between Maggie and Bill that's in in Dead Wrong. It's just like that dynamic is just, you can just sense that menace from him, but everything can't you?
And she's so frustrated, and that comes across in terms of any kind of work that you do. I think you'll come across people who frustrate you no end, but you still need something from them. So it's kind of getting that the answers that you need without losing the plot yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Really cool. We've got some little comments over here, so I think I'll bring some of them up because I love all our comments. We've got oh, so sweet, Kim Nash commenting, super proud of her and her writing career. Thank you, Kim. So sweet. And Samantha Lee Howe's asked us a question, which is, did you always want to be a writer?
No, I didn't. I've always wanted to work with offenders, and I had, all my degrees relate to crime or criminology in that respect. So I always knew I wanted to go down that route. And I mean, when I was younger, I used to write like really depressing and morbid poems and short stories, for school, for high school. So I guess I kind of had an interest then, but I never ever thought I could ever write a book. And Dead Inside was the first thing I've ever written. So yeah, it was.
Wow. So what kind of prompted you then in that way? Because I guess that's quite of a different answer that I was expecting. Because kind of, when we ask people like, did you always want to be a writer? Then people are like, yeah, I've been planning it forever, la la la. But so what did you just, was it working at bookish, or that kind of inspired you to start writing your experiences in that sense? Or?
No, I think Well, I suppose that had some sort of influence on me, but in 2015 I had left finally a really awful relationship, and I think I kind of wanted to find myself. So Dead Inside was quite therapeutic for me to write, and I've been reading crime fiction forever. Like since I was about 7 years old with the Nancy Drew stories and the Hardy Boy mysteries. And then I moved on to true crime. So I've always had this interest in it. And people used to say to me, because I was blogging, have you ever thought of writing? And I was like, oh, no, I could never write a book. Oh. And something just happened. I guess because my life had changed so much in 2015, I just thought, well, why don't I give it a go? Because what harm would come of it if I wrote a book and it just sat in a drawer? At least I could say, oh, I wrote a book. And I attended, Graham Smith runs Crime and Publishment writing workshop. So I attended that with the prologue of Dead Wrong. And I kind of gave it to Graham and Michael Malone to look over because they run the workshop. And both of them came back and said, wow, that's really powerful. Where's the rest of it? And so when I left there, I wrote the first draft of Dead Wrong within 12 weeks, I think. And that was it. I got the bug, and now I just love it.
That's amazing. Now you just keep going. Well, that's a brilliant, I think, start of writing story. I love that. So my next question that I'll bring up, but everyone out there, please do ask us questions. We love answering them. Which is here. There are some quite violent and graphic scenes in Dead Wrong as well. What was this kind of like to write? It must be, how do you kind of keep your distance from that as you're writing? I just imagine it must be quite hard to write.
This probably surprised you again. I love writing those scenes. This is probably my part. I love doing the research for it. I suppose people are going to think, God, she's a little sick, but I think because I worked in probation and I saw some horrific things as a probation officer, and also I suppose anybody in that sort of field, the criminal justice field, you have to be able to separate, what goes on at work to what goes on at home, because otherwise you would mentally just, die. It's horrendous. So I think that kind of gives me that little bit of, I guess I have that ability to kind of go, okay, well, that's not real, or what I'm writing is, just fictional. But I love it. I know it sounds really sick. For Dead Wrong, I watched quite a few. I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't read the book, but I watched quite a few videos on certain techniques, and I was like fascinated. And I got out, and this is probably going to sound really sick, I got out some garden tools that I had to check how things would it work if I did this, and I had this little hammer and a chisel thing, and I was like, oh no, that's too thick, I can't do it with that. So yeah, people are probably thinking, oh my gosh, she really is.
No, I think I like the safe research, like keeping checking out properly. You're in that sense. Do you laugh at your search history sometimes?
And I think I'm really paranoid because I know what certain sites will flag up certain things. So I mean, thankfully, I don't write about child abuse, for instance, but when I was doing my dissertation for my criminology master's, it was on sexual offenses and sexual offending. So I had to do some really weird searches, and I was really paranoid because some of the things that popped up, I had to close the window really quick because it was scary, some of the things that pop up when you put in a search engine. So I kind of got really wary about what I'm typing in to make sure that it sounds like I'm doing research and not like I really need to know how to, what happens when a body burns or So yeah.
Yeah, I love it. It's funny. I love hearing asking like crime and thriller writers about their search history. It's just it just makes me laugh. But I think it's great. I mean,
it's interesting what you're saying as well about it almost being an outlet, specifically the dark scenes. I mean, I think all writing is to some extent an outlet, but it's interesting thinking of like different scenes within that then being kind of a conduit through which you can channel various different experiences and emotions, especially for like catharsis as well.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And I think that's why we like, obviously you write it, but then people like to read it. We like to read it. We want it to be authentic, or like, we like to experience that sort of thing anyway. So in that sense, it's also, I guess, it's cathartic for the reader.
No bodies or anything was harmed in the making of any of my books.
Disclaimer.
Yes.
Yeah, key at the top. We'll put that at the top of the Amazon page now. Just kidding. We've got a couple of questions here that I'll bring up. From Sarah, what has been your best bookish highlight to date?
Oh gosh, there's been a few. Obviously, getting signed, and then getting signed for a few more books. That was fantastic. But I think something that still sticks with me, and I don't know if it'll ever go, was my reading in at Bloody Scotland's Crime at the Spotlight before Ian Rankin and Nicola Sturgeon. I still am like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. So I think that's one of my big bookish highlights today.
And then she tweeted about it as well.
I know. A friend of mine sent me a bookmark with my picture with them on it. Just like, yay!
I love it. So cool. Another question from our audience. Marnie, hi Noelle. My favorite question to ask authors is, if you could be the author of any book, what would it be and why?
See, that's such a hard question because there's so many good books out there. Gosh, I don't even know how to answer that with.
Just say my own, because
I've been the author of the Rebus series because I'm a huge Ian Rankin fan, and that series I just love how, and I would hope if Maggie Jameson ever gets that far, when I read Rebus, I feel like I've known him right from the beginning through to the towards the end of his career and stuff like that. I grow with the characters, so I think something like that kind of series, and the books themselves, I love them. So I'm going to say Ian Rankin's Rebus series, the whole series.
Yeah, I love that. But definitely, that's a good. I think that having that sort of character that takes you through and seeing throughout across a series and really getting to know, that's what's so special about these sorts of longer standing, I guess, like crime series. Something that we all particularly enjoy. Cool. Well, I'll bring up my my next question for you on the screen in a second. Which is more about something we've sort of touched on a bit before, but how the perspective alternates between Maggie, the other characters working on the case as the victims and the killers throughout the series. And the question is, how do you get inside the minds of so many different points of view, particularly the killers? Because there are a lot, and do you kind of plan them out, or you just kind of write and you just weave in between?
I think I must be schizophrenic or have some sort of multiple personality disorder, because I love reading books that are told from multiple points of view. So I thought it was really important in the series to get different people's points of view, because especially the victims themselves, because you kind of hear about the victims in books as there's a body there and that's it. So I wanted readers to kind of get that emotional tie to see what kind of background, although I don't go into it too much, I kind of give you a little bit of a background to the victims themselves and the killer, because people end up certain ways because of certain things, in my opinion, and from my experience. Maybe not everybody, but like, for instance, in Dead Inside and domestic abusers, they usually come from backgrounds where they have their own issues with domestic abuse, a violent parent, and it's learned behavior. And I kind of, although I don't want people to feel sorry for, the baddies per se, you have to kind of understand where they're coming from. So for me, because of the work that I'd previously done, that's what I had to do myself. I had to get an understanding towards the victims and their experiences, the offenders themselves and their experiences, and other people surrounding them. Sometimes we would speak to family members and understand where they were coming from in terms of either their son or daughter, or, if it was a victim themselves. So for me, I think it's important to get those kind of things across. And I don't plan anything out. I'm such a chaotic, I'd probably be a nightmare if I could never teach a writing group, for instance, because I'd just be like, write whatever's in your head. Because whatever comes in my head, I could be writing today, I could be writing something in the beginning of the book, and tomorrow I could be right at the end of the book, and it's bizarre. So
really? Yeah. And then do you kind of like then patch it all together at the end, kind of? Or?
Yeah, like right now I'm at about 70,000 words in book 4. So this is the stage where I will print it all out and start putting them all in the order that they're supposed to be. So then I can go through and read it and go, oh, I've totally missed that thread out here, or I need a little bit more here, and start weaving it that way so that I get the final finished product. So yeah.
Wow.
George R. Martin would call that a gardener versus an architect who has a studied blueprint of everything. So every room, every doorway. Instead, he throws out seeds and then nurtures the garden as it grows.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I really like that. That's really nice. Yeah, but I guess that maybe that in that sense, I don't know, do you think maybe writing like that, it does also help you with all the different points of view, because you're writing them at different points, and then it just at the end all flows together?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sometimes it takes a lot of work then to kind of make certain scenes work, because I might have said one thing that actually doesn't fit anymore. But for me, I mean, I tried writing chronologically, and I usually get to about 20,000 words, and then my mind just goes blank. My brain clearly does not work in that fashion. I just have to write whatever's in my head and then worry about it later.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, so
no, I think, like Bethan said, there's gardeners and architects, and I think that's a really great way of gardening.
I love that. I do love that.
Yeah. Actually, well, Jackie Morrison asked us the question, but I think we kind of covered it just then, which is from a writing craft point of view. When you are writing your book, do you write these point of views separately, or do you hop in and out of them as you write? I think we kind of covered that, didn't we?
Yeah,
so hope you got that, Jackie. But yeah, it's just such a really interesting to just hear the different ways that all the different authors write. Yeah. But talking about lots of characters, this actually leads me on to a more discussion question for everyone. So readers, please comment your thoughts on this one. But I'll start off by asking both Bethan and Noelle, which is what do we think it is about an ensemble cast of characters that we find so compelling, especially in police procedurals? What do you both think?
For me, I just love seeing the dynamics of how people work, and I think you actually become drawn more to the characters when you see them interacting with a different group of people, and throughout, the novel itself, the different ways they behave with, one set of people versus another set of people. Because, for instance, police officers or probation or criminal justice staff will be hard-nosed and behave a certain way within the dynamics of their workforce, but at home they could be big softies towards their partners or their children, and it's great to see that, because sometimes if it's a small kind of group of characters and you're only seeing it from one point of view, it's hard to get that across, and it's hard then you find people or readers and reviewers saying, oh, I didn't really warm to that character, because you only see them in that certain setting.
Yeah,
that's really good.
I would very much echo that. V. Schwab calls it crafting an ensemble, because it's they're kind of at their most compelling when you throw in lots of very different ingredients and then kind of watch the alchemy that results. But yeah, I just think it's multi-POV novels are always just kind of so compelling and so popular, I think, because you do get to see inside all these different heads versus just one. And yeah, it's always kind of, it's that alchemy, I think, of what they can all bring out in each other, the way kind of like a conservatoire would build their perfect company for putting on theatrical productions. It's always about getting the most kind of dynamic and engaging mixture of characters as possible, because they all amplify the best qualities of each other.
Yeah.
So when you're solving a crime, I feel would probably be pretty useful as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, working together. Definitely. Cool. Oh, we've got another question here from Vicky, which is, will there be a blog tour for the next book?
There sure will. Yes, yes. Yeah, I'm asking Sarah, who has been fantastic. She does freelance for Book on the Bright Side Publicity. Nice little plug for Sarah. She has organized the most epic blog tours for this series. So I will definitely be having her again for the third one.
Amazing. Which, speaking of the third one, that brings me to my question for you, Noelle, which is, can you tease anything about Dead Perfect, the next book in the series coming in October, and OMG, the ending of book 2?
No, I'm really terrible at talking about the books because I'm afraid I'm going to give massive spoilers. So all I can say is, and maybe a bit of a tease for book 3 would be, don't get too comfortable in terms of catching your breath and perhaps feeling a bit of relief, because it's not over. There's more to come.
Oh, very, very mysterious.
More, like, I'll probably tell you the whole book like I did to you earlier. Spoil it all.
I like it how Jackie said here, drum roll. Yeah, exactly. But for everyone out there that are, if you're a NetGalley reviewer, actually from 2:30 today, we'll be revealing the cover of Dead Perfect, and the book will be available on NetGalley as well. So if you're lucky, please request to review. Yeah, sorry, Noelle. Did we mention that?
Again about reviews. Oh my gosh.
Oh, sorry. That was a surprise.
It's all right. I love book 3, so yeah. I'm really happy.
Yeah, so it's gonna be there. So we're very excited. So keep your eyes out for just in an hour you'll be able to get your hands on it a bit, which is exciting. But so my
Kindle already.
Pardon? It's on my Kindle. Yeah. So good, very impressive. Love it. So my penultimate discussion question for everyone as well, is a good general question, which is, what is it about serial killers do we think that we as society find so repulsive but also so intriguing?
I could talk about that forever.
Yeah.
I actually did an essay on Charles Manson for my master's, and I had to stop myself at about 10,000 words because I was just going on and on about it, because he is such a fascinating character. And I think it's because we just don't understand them, and there's something that you want to know what goes on in their minds to make them go out and do these things without any sort of guilt or remorse, or if they had been caught, if they hadn't been caught, they would keep doing it. It's just incredibly fascinating. I don't know what else to say about it, and I think because I think everybody within themselves, there's always that time where you're so angry that you think, oh, I could just kill that person, but something morally stops you from doing it, doesn't it? But it's not in them. It's not in them. They if someone really angered them, they would just go, all right, I'm going to go kill that person.
And I guess there's that. Yeah, and if it's like, are they doing it? Are they doing it from anger, or is it just because they can, or that's sort of what is it?
Yeah.
It's just really fascinating. What do you think, Bethan?
Yeah, I've been pondering this one, and I don't know. I always wonder whether it's kind of coming mainly from a place of voyeurism. Like I was trying to remember who once wrote about the French kind of masses who clamored for justice in the name of virtue, but then were baying for blood and couldn't tear their eyes from the guillotine, regardless.
Yeah.
Kind of scythed down on Marie Antoinette's head. And then I was wondering if it was kind of also playing into something more innate than that as well, because while you also have that voyeuristic unattainability, like we always have, well, most of us anyway, morals which supposedly stop those impulses. Whether it's also about playing into that just innate fascination with death. I don't know, like when Hamlet kind of ponders existence and looks into the undiscovered country, until he kind of resigns himself to it and it becomes something which brings solace, that silence. It kind of it pulls him and terrifies him. And yeah, like what excites that fascination more than a serial killer and someone who's made death their calling?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good phrase, death their calling.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I think it's just, I don't know. For me, it's just that sort of, what you're saying, what both you're saying, but just that really trying to understand the psychology of it, but it's just so also, we just can't understand it at all. Either.
I love that scene from Dead Wrong when Maggie is having her coffee with Kate, criminal psychologist extraordinaire as she is, and she's asking, picking her brain about the psychological profile of a serial killer. And Kate explains how there's usually these kind of anchor points which link them all. There's the broken home, the abusive parents, the substance abuse, but they're not always psychopaths, and there's always each one is different in the kind of in their motivations and the kind of the final impulses that make them kind of go down that path. So it's just perennially fascinating.
Yeah, and I love that aspect of research for the books, because I've always had this keen fascination with offender profiling, so I had to stick one in. Although the UK doesn't really use a lot of offender profiles, and they're not part of police teams, I figure, well, it's fictional, so I'm going to say.
Yeah, but I think it's just really good to have that for us as as readers to then examine that in our own minds, like what we think what are the reasons for it as well. But really cool. So my final question then, so I could keep chatting about this for ages and ages, but my final question for everyone is the one that I normally end on here, which is, what would you say about the book when pressing it into someone else's hands?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I don't know what I would say. Obviously I would hope that they'd want to read it, but I think the selling point for the series itself is that, that whole idea that justice isn't served by just one aspect. There's a whole team and a village behind, solving these crimes. So for me, it would be hopefully that's what people get out of it when they read the series, that they understand that, it's not just the police. There is this whole team of people that come about and who probably are more in the sidelines and behind the scenes in solving cases. But now I'm just waffling, because that I just have no idea how I'm so bad at publicizing my own book and championing my own stuff. Happy to do it for everybody else. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that's what we're here to do. But no, it's that you're, I think that the book and the series. It's wonderful to have like an ensemble of characters, and that you see so many different points of view that put together this story in a really like different and interesting way, but also so compelling. So you just keep, turning the pages, and then the ending, OMG. That's all I was gonna say.
And, I would only echo that, really. I think what makes it stand out from the crowd so much is really that edge of realism. So as I shoved it into the hands of every reader we can reach, I would say, yeah, just that edge of realism, sharper than the Grim Reaper's scythe. And
oh, nice.
It's also been recommended by Nicola Sturgeon, so I don't know what more of an endorsement you need than that.
Exactly. What else do we need to say? Oh, amazing. Well, that brings us to the end of our book club for today. But thank you so much for joining us, Noelle. It's so much fun to chat with you, and thank you to everyone out there as well for all your wonderful comments and your questions. It was so much fun.
Yeah. I'll go through some of the questions after work and answer anything that hasn't been. But,
that would be perfect. Yeah, if anyone watches this is a bit late or watch this on catch up, then just add your questions here as well, and then we'll get back to them too. But yes, so thank you so much both for joining me. It was such a fun discussion. And I'll just disappear you away, and then I will tell everyone else about what's coming next. But thank you so much. Bye. Bye. Oh, cool. So I'm just going to disappear away that question, and I'm now going to tell you about what's coming up next. But first of all, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in our discussion. It was so brilliant to chat with Noelle and hear all about her experience and how that's influenced her writing, and just so fascinating to, really, think about these serial killers. They're just never-endingly fascinating to me. I don't know about you. But so I'm now going to tell you about our book club next week, which is going to be next Wednesday. And I'm going to be joined by Andrea Michael, author of The Book of Us. I'll bring it up here. This is a really emotional and powerful book. If you like Judy Picoult and Jojo Moyes, then you'll love this. And as I said, it'll be next Wednesday, but a little bit later in the day at 6 p.m. in the UK and 1 p.m. in Eastern Standard Time. So please come along and join us then. But for the meantime, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and stay well. And I hope that you all have lovely weekends. Bye.